I'll speak on behalf of the green team. I definitely think it was massively different. I'm not sure about everyone else, but I found it a lot more difficult to actually talk here than I would in front of a group of people, because of physical attributes like eye contact and things like that. I find that very easy to talk to people, whereas here there's the lack of that, and sometimes there's that lack of physical kind of input to go off of, and people nodding heads and the likes of that input coming from people that can for me anyway, that is definitely different when presenting, and working as a group was definitely unique because we had to find alternative ways of communicating our, just kind of talking about brainstorms and things like that, completely different. Where as if you were brainstorming in person, you just bounce ideas off each other. Where brainstorming is, and then comparing that can be a totally different situation when trying to find a platform to do so. I think that pretty much sums it up for us anyway.
Yeah, I agree with the kind of the communication aspect of it. I think in real life, in some ways, it's real easy to not wing it, but there's like a natural flow. And then in here, there's a lot of like pressing of buttons and changing slides and keeping in time with people when the people aren't actually beside you. They're in your group, but they're miles away. So you just have to kind of really get everything on time and on beat and just trust that it's going to go according to plan, which sometimes it doesn't just for technical issues. So in real life, it's kind of a bit more reliable.
I'll just talk for the yellow team. I think it was different because you had to kind of find a new way to communicate with your team because obviously you couldn't really meet up with them in person. You couldn't really have that like human contact where you kind of can judge what people are thinking in a way.
I feel like just like the green team, we kind of had a difficulty with like brainstorming because when you're in person face to face, you can just say your ideas and see what people think, whereas I feel like online you can kind of hold back and let other people tell their ideas first, and you just kind of take a back seat and just be like, okay, yeah, they kind of said their idea first, so you kind of take a back seat, whereas in person you'd be like, oh, well, I thought of this.
Yeah, it was different and challenging because there is no face to face. We haven't met face to face, and it felt that some team members don't feel as committed, and I don't think that everyone from the team they took it seriously as you would in like real life project.
For me, anyway, I find it very different. Sort of like everyone else, finding the brainstorming first of all, and then also we had two people drop out of our teams at different times. Like we had someone at the start and then someone replaced them, so it was hard to communicate with Zian, and we didn't notice that he wasn't in the group anymore because he wouldn't respond to social medias and stuff. So I feel like in real life you would have found out that information a lot quicker, whereas here it was sort of like, is he around, is he in it? There was the question of that, and then also the actual presenting of the project, with keeping in time, putting up the slides as people went. I found that challenging at times.
Yeah, like, I mean, it is completely different, but The other things is like the use of Google Slides and Docs is actually pretty familiar with me. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it was kind of easy in that way because I was using software that I already knew how to use. That's just for the other way around. And with social media, like when we finally established who was in the group, it was pretty easy contacting them. It was like I was contacting anyone else on Facebook, you know, so it was different, but there was similarities in some way, you know.
Well, for me, anyways, I'm not the best at public speaking, and I find it very nerve-wracking. So having to talk in front of people without actually having to talk to in front of people was quite easier than the normal routine that you usually go to.
I found that referring directly back to the course material, I usually wouldn't do that for if I was presenting in person. I would just talk about the material that I'm presenting and kind of wing it. Whereas here I was kind of constantly referring back, especially while making the material, referring back to some of the lectures we've had, even when you were in with us a few weeks ago. But each talker that was in, it was constantly kind of reoccurring, and it was really easy to refer back to. And I'm not sure whether that was because it was very kind of materialistic, like the stuff that we were putting into it had a lot to cross over, but I found that I was constantly kind of falling back to the same material.